and now I'm passing the word to Santiago.
Yeah, hi everyone, can you hear me?
The name sounds Spanish.
Ja, it is. Kann natürlich auch Deutsch sprechen, aber ich glaube, das ist besser, wenn wir das auf Englisch machen, damit ich auch natürlich den Vortrag noch zugreifer für andere Menschen. Bin ich inklusive.
Yeah, again. Good.
I would try to see if actually everything is working with the technology, so I would try. So are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, everything fine, yes.
Perfect. So let's get started. So, very good. As I know that I only have like around 10 minutes to talk about this, and I think that talking about data-driven enterprise, a very complex topic, and we can really spend hours about that. I just decided to have a quick introduction about that. So my name is Santiago Cabrera-Naranjo. I am Data Analytics ML Territory Lead at Amazon Web Services. So when we talk about data, actually data has been keeping us busy already for almost 20,000 years. So what you see right now on my screen is the Ishango bone. Yeah, and it was actually discovered in Congo, and it is believed to be 20,000 years old. And if you look carefully, you see that there are some marks on it, right? So people were already storing kind of like information as form of marks, and they were probably using that to count something or just to put some kind of signs, right? So what I'm doing right now, I may be probably introducing to you the first object storage or database that the humanity ever had, right? But why is this very relevant right now? Because we are developing very, very fast, right? So we are creating more data than ever before. And this data is coming out from a lot of digital innovations that are coming from many companies, like from the attendees here. And we are seeing as well a lot of new devices as well generating data. So I think that it is not new if I tell you that we will be creating in the next 3 years more data than in the past 30 years, according to IDC's studies. But my message that I want to give here is that when I was invited to this conference, right, what I did is I started to look at the attendee list, right? And when I was looking at that, I actually got confirmed. Normally, I was expecting to see a lot of, many years ago, I was normally expecting to see people from IT background, data background, engineering background, data science background. But now I was very pleased to see that there is people from marketing, from product, from operation, from finance, from all those kind of departments, what we call line of business. So this means actually that when we are talking about data democratization, this is already happening, right? And there is a lot of studies out there that is actually giving us the sign that 60% of the purchase decision on analytics technologies are coming from you guys, right? And the business units will be responsible of the creation of 79 zettabytes of data worldwide by 2025. And this is very, very important because it shows actually that we are scaling even faster, right? So that people in the business units are getting new skills and are using data in different ways as we were used to do it in the past. So I just want to give an example before I continue how we are doing these kind of things with several customers and how they are reinventing their own business. What you saw there was a 1.6 seconds pit stop, right? And if you see right now, the Formula One is actually fueled by data, right? So every Grand Prix, every car contains 120 sensors, and they generate 1.1 million of telemetric data points per second, and they are transmitted in real time, right? So you can imagine as well that the cars are sending this data to the pits every single second, right? But this is not the only thing that is important. If you actually see that the F1 is combining this with 69 years of historical data, they are not only using this data for the teams themselves, so they are using as well machine learning with Amazon SageMaker, and they are really working together to really improve as well the customer experience, the fan experience. They want to bring really the fans closer to the experience of racing. So they are creating new stats like overtaking probability, pit strategy, or even different kind of like predictions that are actually creating more engagement from the fans and are actually putting this sport in a new position, right? So look, just take a look at this new example. What we're seeing here is actually data points like closing speed, correct, and well, the algorithms understand as well the nature of the corner. So this is actually combined with the historical data, right? And they are able to predict the probability of this pilot and this car to overtake if they follow a specific path. So if you see this is a very incredible amount of innovation, and really how how the F1 is changing the way how we understand sports. We're doing something similar as well with the German Bundesliga, so you can expect as well a lot more from here. But when I'm speaking with a lot of companies, the question that they normally have is how to realize the vision of a data-driven enterprise, right? And I told you at the beginning that we can speak hours on that, but because I just have a couple of minutes, I will be very, very quick in the things that we have observed that is very important. And one of the things is the culture, right? And when I'm speaking about the culture, are the beliefs, values, and behaviors that create a data-driven culture. And let me give you a very quick example of what I mean with this, right? When you see Amazon, right, we don't use PowerPoint. So I was having a very hard time trying to build this presentation for you guys. So what we do is we use narratives, we write things, and there is a reason for that. It is because we believe that when you're writing a text, you definitely need to understand what you're writing about, but not every kind of writing is good, right? So we try to avoid adjectives, because normally we call them whistle words. If someone comes to us and they are telling us, you know, we gain more customers this quarter, we respond to our new great marketing campaign or whatever, that's something that we call is meaningless. So we really try to be very precise in the ways that we write documents, and we say we gain 100 new customers in Q4 of 2029 compared to 75 in Q3 of 2021. And you may know why this happened, yeah, why we are better or why not. So that is the kind of like the, you know, fact-driven conversations that we always like to have, and we try to leave those emotions outside those documents. Another thing that we do in a mental model is the way how we make decisions, right? So what we want to do is we want to avoid always staying in an analysis paralysis, right? There are two kinds of decisions that we always see, and we have one-way and two-way door decision. And why in our leadership principles that you probably know from Amazon, we say, we have something called bias for action. And normally we say that speed matters in business. Many decisions and actions are reversible and do not need extensive study. We value calculated risk-taking. And the message here is that one-way door decisions are normally decisions that need more deeply analysis of what you want to do, because they normally have irrevocable consequences. So if you imagine, for example, in a retail business and you're thinking about like opening a new warehouse, you probably will have a more risk and you need to be very careful in what you are doing. But fortunately, we do have most of the decisions that we have are two-way doors decision. And this is actually true if you are a real agile company, which means is that the consequences that you will have are not that much, you can replicate, you can always go back and start again and learn from it, right? So normally as well, we coach and teach as well our new leaders to make decision with 70% of the data that they wish they had, yeah? And we believe that if someone already has 90% of the data that they need to make a decision, probably you are going too slow, right? So that is kind of like mental models that you need to have. The second pillar that we see in order to become a data-driven enterprise is the organization, right? And I will focus here, not on, there's a lot of things here like structure, roles, and as well how you organize around data. And I will focus just in how you could actually organize around data. Everyone is talking about becoming data-driven and having access to data, democratizing, but what is actually the meaning of democratizing data, right? So normally what happens is that you need to understand your data in your company as a marketplace, right? We were using this marketplace. Many people right now are using the terminology data mesh, right? But when we started to talk about this data-driven company, the term hasn't been coined yet, right? So, but pretty much what mean is that we are pushing the innovation and the agility to the edges, right? So we are actually pushing this to the producers and consumers who are pretty much the business users, right? The people from marketing, from sales, from customer support, from different kind of line of business. And why is this important? Because innovation happens at the edges. They are very close to the customer, so that it doesn't really make sense in many cases to centralize the way how you do analytics, right? You can see many companies that are kind of like having like a bit more older way to organize, that they have a centralized or a central data team. And this data team is responsible of creating all the analytics, right? And they are kind of like becoming, when we are moving faster, kind of like a bottleneck. So the idea is really to transform the mental model of this central team and actually move them from doing analytics to enable other people to do analytics. And I will give you an example of how they do this, right? Number one, if you want to consume more data, if you are a marketing unit, what you would need to know is which data is there. So they should be responsible of creating a data catalog so that you know what kind of information you have and can consume, right? And if you're a producer, you need to know what you need to do to share data, right? And just keep the terminology sharing, because I will be using that a bit more later on. And that is, for example, the responsibility that they have. When we talk about sharing data, we talk about as well responsibility of how you handle data, right? So that means that if I am able to share my data, who is going to govern that data? And what happens, for example, if if I have a customer that comes from a producer, kind of like customer support, and they say, I want to make use of my GDPR rights and I want you to forget me. I want you to delete me. So what will happen is that the central team needs to make sure that if the data change anywhere in the company, it needs to propagate everywhere. So you want to avoid replicating data. You really want to incentivize the company to share data. And we will talk about that. And that's actually the mechanism that modern companies and modern, digital companies are using. Moving forward to the next pillar, mechanisms, right? You need to have mechanisms, and at Amazon, we love mechanisms, right?
So Santiago, 1 minute left.
Yeah, perfect. So, and we love mechanisms. So one, just to finish this is, normally in business, we have repeated problems that are coming back all the time, right? Like coming again and again. And normally what happens is that people will get together and they will start to discuss around like, you need to do that better, and probably we need to be more conscious on doing that. But normally what you do in this kind of meetings, you are asking for good intentions, right? And asking for good intentions never work, and there's a reason for that. Because people already have good intentions and you are not asking them to change. So you need mechanisms, good ways to measure things. You don't need to focus only in one kind of like measure mechanisms. You need to make sure that if you isolate like kind of like the way how you measure things, you may end up, you kind of like exaggerate things. For example, if you focus only on retention rate and you start to really work you will start to work to hide the button of cancel subscription or to hide the telephone number, that would be a terrible experience. You need to make sure that you actually balance KPIs. And that would bring us as well to our last part, that actually before I finish, and it is the execution. So if you are aware of this, make sure that you actually work backwards from what your customer want to do. Make sure that you identify an opportunity that you don't think it's only cool, but you actually can see the value of this. Bring in a hypothesis to do that. Build a team. This needs to be cross-functional. Make sure that you use cloud so that you can actually have the cost of experimentation to really spin up, compute, and start inventing. Make sure that you have as well more data, run analytics. You can act upon the data and have feedback from your customers. And that feedback is kind of like going to help you to start more experiments. So, and how do you do this, right? For example, there is a very interesting example. If you are starting with data projects, you start with something very easy like finance wants a P&L, you start involving more people, you know, sales departments want to have some of that data. You have at the end of the day, marketing, you have supply chain, and you have many teams who are interested in the data. They have different goals, but they have in common that they need the data. And that is actually in which I will be closing my presentation right now, is that you will need, in order to enable the people to be autonomous, but to share data, a modern data architecture, right? And in order to do that, you will need the right tool to do the right job. So you will need a data catalog. You will need not to force people to use tools that the central team want them to use, but really, we were talking about democratization of data. We need as well, we were speaking as well about different kind of skill sets that are coming together. And that is our kind of like the advice and what we normally can help. We can help you to build always this data strategy. We can help you as well to make the use of the best of what you have, to start with cloud. And we have developed, of course, specific programs for that, starting as well, you know, kind of like having sparring partners for executives to give them guidance, inspire them as well, how they can transform, to really help them as well to build a data vision and strategy. And that's everything what I wanted to tell you in really 10 minutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And it was a little bit more than 10 minutes, but it's okay. But let me ask you a question and ask you for a brief answer. You have been talking about data-driven culture, about data-driven enterprise, right? When it comes to maturity, my perception is in Europe, the organizations are at the very beginning. They are struggling with issues like data stitching, data unification, not to talk about data processing, data activation. What is your perception?
I wouldn't say that that's actually true. I would actually say that many companies are actually very, very heterogeneous internally. You do have like kind of like business unit that are very advanced. Probably you already started using cloud and started using machine learning already a couple of years ago. And there are other parts of the company that are not doing that. Normally that's as well the challenge, because you need to balance what the people already know in the company and other people don't know. So I do not see that very pessimistic that they don't have, but I think that the very hard thing that we see in companies is really to agree and really to understand what autonomy means. We still see that many of the central teams tend to think in a monolithic way and try to really impose what needs to be used. And that's not a real democratization, but I think that we are in the right direction.
I couldn't more agree. Thank you very much, Santiago, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. That's it.